Welcome to Game Theorem, where we have serious discussions about absurd entertainment.
Kira, I have a mission for you.
Yes?
There's an enemy unlike any we have faced before. Its form is monstrous. Its intellect is monstrous. Its killing abilities is monstrous. You need to end this epidemic once and for all.
And what is the enemy?
Frank.
Who's Frank?
All the Franks.
What?
Hey, my name is Frank. How's it going? It's a monster. Don't worry. Every kill you get +5 rations from the federal government. These monsters are okay to kill. But I don't want to die. Quiet, Frank. Don't worry, it can't even speak English.
I'm not gonna kill Frank.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Kira.
And what did you think of that, Kira?
That was a really good one.
Yeah.
I didn't know where that was going before we got into this, by the way.
Man, whatever. Making something out to be a monster that's not. And look, you might think we're talking about some type of bigotry or prejudice. And look, we'll get to that. But actually, we're talking about something that's not just that. So, what are we talking about today, Kira?
Today, we are talking about zombies and killable people.
Zombies will be part of this discussion, just like prejudice will.
We're talking about killable people, which is a common trope in video games and other media, but especially games. And it's a trope where disposable enemies are in place to go against the main character, and they usually give one reason or another why they're okay to kill them.
Oh yeah, definitely, because violence is just such a selling point in all of media, no matter what form you're using. People like violence, dating forever. I mean, just imagine like the Roman Colosseum where you're literally just attending to watch violence. Mm-hmm. And I would argue our modern day sports really aren't that much difference. You're watching conflict. Mm-hmm. And its artificiality does not deter you from enjoying that.
And I think games especially focus on violence just because, you get to simulate violence without having to worry about consequences.
Well, I think you could say that about all of fictional media, not just games, because all fictional media is inherently fiction. You can watch a movie and there can be violence on it and you don't feel bad or anything.
Yeah, fair enough.
The only time you might start feeling bad is if you're watching something extremely... Oh, wait, should we have given any trigger warnings?
Oh, I guess maybe violence and maybe gore. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not much else.
Yeah, and some prejudicial stuff. So this one, let's try to make this one not a explicit one. Mm-hmm. But, so watch your language, Kira.
Okay.
It's not my fault. It's iTunes' fault. Anyway, some movies might be extremely graphic, some really gory movies.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's a certain phenomena with the brain where you can have like empathetic pain, where you see someone like break their leg and you feel like your leg broke just for a moment.
Oh my God, yeah. There's this really violent movie called A Man on Fire.
What?
I was just talking about my experience with that kind of pain.
Oh.
Yeah. I watched it when I was little and I just, oh God,
Right, and that's why I can't watch any Saw movie.
Yeah, I've watched them.
Oh, is that too pedestrian for you? But yeah, so that can happen because I think there's a bit of a trick in your mind going on. But other than that, I think it's okay. You can watch violence or whatever. It's fictional. It's safe.
But in video games, it feels like you're the one doing the violence. Like you can feel like you're the one doing it.
Right, you're the one acting out the violence.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to be talking about do video games cause violence or anything because one, it doesn't. Two, it's just not the subject of the conversation. Mm-hmm. But what we wanted to talk about was who is the violence being done to? Because in a lot of media, you have a protagonist, you have a hero, right? This is especially true in a lot of American movies where you have like some 30-year-old Caucasian man that's like, I gotta go fight things and people and stuff, right?
Yep.
So who are the things you're fighting? Well, in order for you to believe in the protagonist, the things or people that you have to be fighting have to be bad. So that's what we wanted to talk about today. What makes bad? And are there degrees to this badness? Because it's like you have to make people out to be monsters. And where's the dividing line between people and monsters? And video games, I think, are particularly centered in this discussion because whereas violence is a mainstay in most media, violence is a crutch in video games.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Very few video games can exist without violence, at least as they're currently constructed. You take violence out of them, most video games aren't even playable. And why is this, right?
I don't know.
Well, I was going to answer it as a rhetorical question. But the reason is because violence is just something that's extremely easy to rationalize. Person A mad at person B for any reason. Person B mad at person A for any reason. They fight. There's a clear winner. You know? So this is something that was really easy to program. You can even say some of the first video games are a form of that, like Pong, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a form of violence. I mean, it's a competition, a sport, right? But we talk about sports are like artificial simulacra of violence, of false copies, rather, safe copies. So Pong, you are literally a paddle going against another paddle. So this has it baked down into it to the point where even like violence is something that America has never really seen worth censoring. Like we can talk violence in all this episode and YouTube will not demonetize their version of this podcast episode. But, you know, we talk about any type of promiscuity demonetized. So I mean, that's a weird thing about America, but particularly it seems that all of our video games, even the ones aimed at children, have violence strewn throughout it. And what matters is just how you depict it. Like Mario, people make jokes about Mario killing like thousands and thousands of innocent creatures. Although they're not really innocent. They technically joined the fascist King Koopa. But I see you, Goomba. I see what you're doing. But the point stands that Mario is a killing machine.
Yep.
But when you kill them, they're just in a poof and they're gone, right? So they try to make it child friendly, but the underlying concept is incongruous with that, right?
Yeah.
So violence is something that's in video games, which means enemies are something that's inherent to video games. Who are you killing? And especially for if you're going to make it child friendly, or just not even child friendly, but just appealable. Like most people want their protagonist, their main character, to be likable. They want to put themselves in their shoes, which means you have to make the bad guys bad.
Yep.
And that's why I think this applies to video games more than any other media. Any thoughts, Kira?
I agree with you there because it's like the violence always has a reason, and in video games especially, they just give whatever reason they can for the conflict. But, you know, there's a spectrum of these killable people from, like, more inhuman monsters that, like, oh, of course you want to kill them, to, like, actual human beings, and you stop a second and think, like, wait, why am I killing these people? So
well, maybe not even why, because I think usually they'll give you a flimsy pretext for doing so. But question that.
Yeah.
Question that flimsy pretext, and then you might realize just how flimsy it is. Even if not in a in-universe standpoint, at least from a metatextual standpoint.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I use the word metatextual. I feel smart. I think that's the first time I've used that word.
You use a lot of Smart words.
But I feel like that's a good one. I like that word.
What
I might want to
does
use it more often.
What does it mean again?
Basically, you're looking at it from the standpoint of a real world perspective, where a writer put in a throwaway line to justify this.
Oh, I see.
So we'll be looking at how small of an effort was made on a metatextual level to justify that they are bad, killable people.
All right. Okay.
I mean, the word killable is is that even a word? I guess it is.
I guess it is.
That's bad. That shouldn't be a word. No one is killable. I mean,
I don't think spell check said it wasn't a word.
Google says it's a word, so yay. Either that or Google's not working.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you were right, though. There is a spectrum of people and monsters. Mm-hmm. A killable person to a killable monster, and whether a person is a monster, we came up with a spectrum of what we think can really define this trope. And we have examples of different video games that employ such people/monsters.
Mm-hmm. And other media.
We mentioned zombies in the name because zombies really kind of they're emblematic of the strata, the in-between, that this is not a binary thing, that you're either a person or a monster, that this entire trope of making people killable inherently takes away their humanity.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And don't forget, zombies are temporarily killable people.
That's where I first heard the phrase killable people, actually. It was from that YouTube video with Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
It was a PSA about zombies. Mm-hmm. And he's like, look, we need to be ethical when we treat zombies. Don't go around ripping their limbs off. You know that doesn't kill them. You gotta do a headshot right between the eyes. It's time we recognize that zombies aren't just like smelly meat sacks, but are actually just temporary, killable people. The tagline for that was, so next time you meet a zombie, be wise. Aim between the eyes. So it was funny because they were taking something that most people just assume is a given, a monster, right?
Yeah.
And being like, well, hey, wait a minute. If these were former people, maybe we should respect them like we respect corpses, right?
Yeah.
And that incongruity in the narrative and the real world logic is what really gives that segment its humor. Mm-hmm. So anyway, you want to start breaking down the spectrum, Kira?
Yeah.
All right.
So we're going to start with abstract monsters that are like entities, but are definitely not anything like humans or animals that we know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, these are definitely the unknown monsters. Like, the ignorance is a fear in and of itself. These ones, they can be like, they're terrifying, and that it's difficult to figure out how to kill them. It may even be impossible to figure out how they could die. And when you start asking questions of like that in a game, like if you start opposing some of these creatures and you have no idea how you're going to take them down, you might not realize that killing them was a given. You're upset that you can't figure out how to kill them. You don't ask yourself, should you? You're just upset because you can't, or you're scared or terrified because it's not even an option. Mm-hmm. It's a certain sense of defenselessness that I feel is interesting when it comes to video games, because it's a genre in which you feel that defeating the enemy is always an option.
Yep.
But in media, that can be powerful for any type of characters that you would think would be violent. Mm-hmm. Outside of video games as well.
So examples of this would be like the more eldritch creatures from the game Darkest Dungeon.
Well, also like Lovecraftian cosmic horror stuff.
Yeah, in general.
Yeah, well, some of it. The more abstract ones, because those things come in so many different forms.
Yeah, fair enough. More plant-like monsters like piranha plants from Mario, or the Whomping Willow from Harry Potter.
I mean, think about it. Think about plants and how alien they really are when you really get to thinking about them. Think about like any creature or monster you go fight in a video game. Most creature, like you decapitate its head, it's gonna die, right? Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
But plants, real plants, you decapitate their heads, they are fine. It will grow back.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Not just that, but like they don't have to eat. They go off of sunlight. This might sound pretty pedestrian because we know of plants in the real world. But if you're in a situation where there's a plant enemy that you have to fight, how would you kill it? I mean, fire, possibly.
Yeah.
But punching it, guns, like the traditional means through which you kill aren't going to work. So I still feel they fit the category of abstract monsters because they're not really monsters as we know them.
Yeah, definitely. There's also like more intangible monsters.
Oh, did you mention the Whomping Willow from Harry?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, sorry.
There's also more intangible monsters that you can't even touch, like the sort of force of death from the Final Destination movies. It's kind of just like a force that's like, oh, you were supposed to die, so now you're going to in some other way. But it's completely intangible and inhuman, so yeah. And then there's also like the darkness from Fable 3 that's supposed to take over and you have to stop it. It's just an intangible darkness. It'll come up with shadows of creatures, but like the darkness itself is the enemy. And then also like computer AIs like Skynet from Terminator is also intangible.
Yeah, from the lack of having a physical form, it's anywhere and everywhere at the same time. It may control physical forms and come at you. And Skynet's particularly interesting. Like as an AI, the forms aren't just, it's not like just possessing people to come after you, but like it controls like machinery. It controls a type of artifact.
Mm-hmm. I guess like what's that AI called from Cyber Shock or whatever from
System Shock?
Yeah, System
Shodan.
Shodan. Yeah, that would be one too, right?
Yeah, definitely. Except she has an interesting twist in her story where you end up having to, I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
But yeah, so with AI, like the fact that they're like in like cyberspace or the digital realm, or they're going via the airwaves, makes it very much like a technological variant of an abstract monster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another one I think is interesting is the idea of a disease, a plague, or a bacteria.
Oh yeah,
because an epidemic that spreads is like in itself an enemy and it's abstract, and that's one that's real, one that we face in real life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's not like the plant scenario where you have to imagine a plant you have to fight. I mean, maybe a plant epidemic, like a crossover between the two. Maybe that's
kind of like what happens in Vault 22 and Fallout. That's a plant
or
epidemic.
What happens in real life all the time, like kudzu in the southern United States.
Like when plants get introduced and start taking over.
Or look at California wildfires, where they have to like try to make controlled burns for the underbrush to prevent larger ones from taking them out.
Oh yeah.
Like the solution is like the whole thing of abstract monsters. It's not that there is no solution. There actually may not be, but it's that the solution seems alien. The solution seems otherworldly. Like think about this. Like California is being onset by more and more fires because of climate change, right?
Yeah.
So the solution, oh no, there's more fires. Do we need to pour water on it? Like, do we use Pokemon logic? And the answer is, oh no, actually, we fight fire with fire.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? It's just going to create more fire. No, we fight big fire with little fire. Okay, that makes even less sense. No, like, hear us out. So, the solution is weird, but the solution makes sense. You burn out all the little underbrush that would catch on fire. That way, it's less likely to be a bigger fire when you have a big wildfire. Yeah. It's controlled burnings. Uh-huh. That's a thing that's been around since like the pre-Columbian times, Native Americans. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that's a good example of how plants can be abstract, but it's also because of it's like an epidemic, and bacteria and disease can do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Where for thousands of years people had no idea how to fight it, to where we literally thought like people in Europe thought that diseases were miasma because they didn't understand how bacteria worked.
Yeah,
they thought it was like stinky gas in the air, basically. Let's see, what's a good example of this in a video game? Oh no, wait. I wanted to mention, though, because of the alien nature, like, for example, the underbrush solution. What's the solution with diseases, right? Well, the solution is we have to use science. We've analyzed it. We've come up with a solution, but it doesn't seem logical to our, like, everyday life. You have to go get an injection of a dead version of the disease to be able to fight it off so that when the real one comes, you're able to survive. Yeah. That does not make sense to everyday logic. But that's why you have to realize the threat you're going against is not something you would see every day. You can't punch polio. You just can't. You can't punch measles.
Yeah.
It won't work. You have to combat an alien threat, you might need an alien solution. And come on, bacteria, they're kind of alien in a way.
Yep.
I mean, they're not, but they feel that way. To the way, like, because they're like on a microscopic level compared to what we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know a good example of this in a game or a movie or something? And not a zombie thing. We're not talking about diseases that get human representations.
I guess there's Plague Inc., where you control disease to try to kill the world.
Like the pandemic games.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that works. Except you're the bad guy in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are...
I think there's another game where you're, like, trying to fight the plague, but yeah.
Is there a game where there's just, like, some disease ravaging everybody?
Pathologic.
That sounds kind of like Bloodborne, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Kind of. It's mixed. Bloodborne has a bit of everything in it. All right, so that's abstract. Let's move on to the next section.
All right, these are animal-like monsters, basically pests that that everyone thinks should be exterminated.
Now, when you think of animals, you might be thinking of the familiar ones. We are not talking about them.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Animalia kingdom, which includes things such as octopi, insects, fish. These are where you get the more familiar of the eldritch cosmic horror creatures.
Like Cthulhu?
Yes, yeah, like Cthulhu is a big one who's appeared in all media, including video games. And yeah, Cthulhu has an octopus head, a kind of humanoid body, but reptilian the scales, claws, wings. It's very much like a non-mammalian animal monster. And when you think about that, it seems a little pedestrian, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, Cthulhu is supposed to be like this eldritch outer god, and it looks horrifying to even imagine. Yet when you really break its components down, you're like, oh, that's octopus, lizard, bat. Like,
yeah.
These are pretty familiar things, right?
Yeah.
And I think the reason that this category is effective is because they're tapping into our human psychology of creepy crawlies.
Yeah.
There's certain types of creatures that we as humans have an innate response to that, like, oh, this is gross. And there might be an evolutionary thing behind this of like, oh, there's bugs on me, you know, I don't want to get sick or die or stung, right? Not to mention snakes. Like, there's a reason that these things are common fears among people. I mean, you're an arachnophobe, aren't you?
Yeah.
So that's really what this category is for. So which of the examples did you mention any of it yet?
Just Cthulhu.
Okay, because there's also like skags from Borderlands.
Yeah, they're kind of just weird.
Yeah, I mean they're technically alien monsters, but like their mouths don't work in the same ways ours do. They're kind of scaly, that kind of thing.
Like insects, like cazadors from Fallout. Those are freaking. Ugh, I hate them.
I mean, think of any creatures that fit like any non-mammalian type of creatures. I mean, not just mammalian, anything cute and fluffy, that's not going to be this category. Like, I'm thinking of like Ender's Game where the aliens were bug-like.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, anything that has like this foreign bug-like presence
like
would fit this.
Like the prawns from
District 9.
District 9.
Yeah, they do the same thing. Although they are humanoid, so they kind of fit in more than one category.
Yeah, I see. There's also like some from Morrowind are like these Qualma forager things that look like leeches and stuff, and that game had the most bug-like alien monsters. So, yeah.
Let's move to the next category.
All right. And there's your mammal-like monsters, basically just animals that fight you.
Right. So these were the cute ones. These ones are an entirely different level because they're more similar to us. Anything that's like a dog or a cat or a beast, like the word beast covers so much of this category because what is a beast when you think about it? A beast is just a placeholder for big furry monster. Mammals, right?
Yeah.
Or mammal-like anyway.
Wolves and feral dogs are often enemies in video games.
I'm telling you, listeners, if I get any comments from you being like, well, what if the creature going against me is technically a mustelid? It's a big furry creature, but it's not a mammal. It doesn't have young that way. I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to find you and I'm going to congratulate you on your taxonomy. But I'm not going to be happy about it.
I don't even know what that is. I literally don't know what that is.
Well, you know what, Kira? I'm not congratulating you on your taxonomy. And I'm happy about it.
Okay.
I'm half joking.
Like Shadow and Rouge from Sonic the Hedgehog are enemies.
Okay, but they're anthropomorphized. That doesn't really work.
Okay, fine.
More like the legendary beasts from Pokemon, Entei, Raikou, and Suicune.
Oh, yeah, those
Not quite
guys.
dogs, not quite cats, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. They're beasts.
Yeah.
Think of like werewolves from anything, although they turn into humans, so that kind of complicates the matter.
Well, sometimes they just do straight up wolves.
I mean,
often.
Think about any fantasy game where you go out into the wilderness, you find a beast, and you kill it. You know, you slay a wild hog, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to look to fiction because there were real beasts in the world, especially like during the Ice Age, like woolly mammoths and giant sloths and stuff like that.
Ice Age, the movie. There you go.
Thank you for that example of media relevance. What's a good video game? I guess Pig Ganon from Zelda.
Oh, yeah.
But
I guess so.
Anthropomorphic still.
Well, yeah, I guess. But there's like
I think if I knew fantasy, I could think of better examples for this.
There's like pig monsters from Darkest Dungeon that are basically just pigs that have like stuff to fight with.
Like maybe, I don't know, Monster Hunter? Are there
Oh yeah, absolutely. Monster Hunter has creatures that are like in every one of these categories except the more humanoid ones.
All right.
They have ones based on birds, ones based on mammals, one based on bugs. They have every kind of monster in Monster Hunter.
And I think part of the reason that these are like monsters, because it doesn't matter if there's some like big fictional, Greek myth of a beast, or it's just literally a little puppy. Because no matter what, it's going to be seen as okay to kill these things because humans see themselves as above beasts, above creatures, and then it's okay to kill them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Even in the most empathetical of examples, if it's like a puppy and most people would think you're a monster if you killed it, right? Mm-hmm. If you were put in a situation where it was you or the puppy, like this is one bad puppy, right? Mm-hmm. And the puppy's going after you and you have to like defend your life in self-defense, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone's going to be like, okay, well, you did what you had to do.
Yeah.
Now, you might say that works for self-defense of any scenario, but I would argue if you're doing self-defense against another person and they are the righteous one and they had a good reason for going after you, like if you're being the bad guy, right? Mm-hmm. That wouldn't work. People might not go, oh, you did what you had to do. People would go like, you're a monster.
Yeah.
But with the puppy, like that puppy is not going to be morally right over you.
Yeah. That's what people think.
Well, actually, I guess, what if you were abusing the puppy and the puppy was defending itself?
That happens, yeah. Dogs will attack their abusers sometimes.
But you know what? We're talking about tropes, right? Because you could have that scenario even with a Greek mythic beast that you were abusing the beast and the beast killed you righteously, right? Mm-hmm. But without context, you killed a beast, a lot of people won't bat an eye.
Yeah.
And you kill a puppy, people might be concerned about that, right? but you're not going to be immediately seen as a murderer. You might just be seen as a bad person. And I would argue the only difference between the puppy and the beast is that one of them is cute.
Yeah. There's also like the traditional
Well, I guess also a puppy can't defend itself, so there's a power element at play.
Yeah.
So that's something too. Because really a puppy would not be seen as much of a threat in most games. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to say the traditional chimera would, I guess, technically fall under mammal-like creatures because the body is usually a lion.
Yeah, it only has like a snake tail, so it's mostly beast.
Yep. All right, you want to move on?
Yep.
All right. We got more human-like monsters. These are more humanoid-looking monsters, similar or that look similarly to humans and also have that sort of level of sentience.
Yeah, so these are for like monsters that are in a humanoid form and don't share too many traits of other existing categories. So like Cthulhu technically had a humanoid structure in his body, but there weren't any recognizable human features. He was covered in scales and claws and stuff, so that wasn't really a human-like monster. And you could say the same thing about like if you had a human... Whoa. I forgot what the other example I was going to use. Never mind. But human-like monsters are really where their humanoid form is closer to us than a beast per se. It's like they're a fine line between beast and human, where they're like semi-human. Like I feel like this might be like the hominid section.
So would Sonic the Hedgehog characters fit more here?
Yes. Sonic the Hedgehog characters fit more here because they're anthropomorphized beasts.
Yep.
So, and they definitely have a humanoid form. So, but most Sonic the Hedgehog characters you don't try to kill.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
We're not really talking about mascots. We're talking about characters that are portrayed as okay to kill because they're portrayed as human but very likable. You have to have human ones that aren't likable. So because they have to be considered monsters in some way. Whereas Sonic the Hedgehog basically takes the cutest animals with the nicest people and combines them.
Yep. So
a human-like monster is considered killable because they are the other. Right? They are not us. It's almost like being racist, whereas they're the other that can be feared, except you don't have to actually be racist.
Yeah, and it's also kind of species driven.
Right, yeah, in a way, because like you can be all for humanity as a whole and still other them. It's like the one racism you're able to have. And I think really the best word for it is, like you said, speciesism. Yeah. Which doesn't exist in the real world, at least not anymore. Thanks a lot, Homo sapiens. Like Neanderthals or the other hominids.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's like a speciesism. You're being bigoted towards other species. Now, this can be fantastical. Like, there's a lot of demons that are very humanoid in form, but because they are demons, and you identify with Christian mythology that, oh, I should kill these people. I should shoot them. It's okay.
Yeah, especially in Doom, because in Doom, basically all you do is kill demons.
Well, not just Doom. I feel like I can't even think of all the games this is from where you just have humanoid shaped enemies that are demon-like.
Crap. Shingami Tensei? The one where you summon demons as...
What about it?
Like, there's enemies there that you fight the demons in that game.
Right, but just like with Doom, if you're going to have a game that's entirely based on the concept of demon, you're probably not going to limit yourself to a humanoid ones. They have various forms.
Yeah, that's true.
And they probably have beastly ones as well. But any of the human demons, like humanoid shape ones, this is exactly where they would fit. Yeah. It's like, oh, they look kind of human shaped. Like, I might even be able to talk with them. But they look demon. They're bad.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, of course they're going to be shooting you and you're going to be using that self-defense thing, but you don't have to for a second feel bad about it like you would with the puppy scenario. So,
I would argue that there's some Daedra from Elder Scrolls that also are very humanoid.
Well, I mean, the fantasy genre has so many humanoid creatures that are okay to kill, like orcs.
Yeah, goblins from Breath of the Wild. Well, they're called bokoblins in that. But
Yeah, what else are there? Elves, hobbits. Wait, no.
Well, usually you're not allowed to kill those.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, they're too white. Wendigos you put from what game is that?
It's Until Dawn. It's a survival horror game that explores sort of Wendigos. And Wendigos are actually technically, sometimes they're like used to be humans in that they turn into Wendigos, but they're human-like monsters. And they have no sentience from before. They're basically what you turn into if you're a cannibal in mythology.
Okay.
So,
next category.
All right. Non-humans, but human.
Well, the next category is not human, but human.
Yeah.
Where these creatures are not technically human, but they're human in all the ways that count.
Yeah, they're equal to humans in sentience, but they're not quite human-looking, and they're just beings that are just as sentient as humans, just they look different.
So this is like the human-like monster category very much. The only difference is they're not overtly monstrous. Mm-hmm. Like, they're not like humanoid demons where they're like, oh, they just look human. They're actually a monster inside. These are ones where they're just kind of like a gray area where it's like, they look kind of like us, but they're not us.
You know what? Yeah, that's why I was thinking of Daedra as the previous category instead of this one, because they are monsters. They fight you. They're seen as other and evil.
Like aliens in general as a concept from pretty much any. Oh, I mean, as long as they're intelligent and they can speak, they fit well for this.
Mm-hmm. Like from Saints Row 4, the aliens in Saints Row 4 are.
I know you only put that because you're currently playing Saints Row 4.
But they count.
Sure. I mean, think of just like the traditional Martian alien. That would fit the scenario as well if they were an enemy to go after you. Mm-hmm. Like if you were told to kill them, you probably wouldn't feel bad.
Yeah, like, what is it? Zetans from Fallout? Those kinds of aliens.
To continue, most mutants and ghouls from Fallout would also fit this category.
Yeah, because they're more sentient, like just regular ghouls and certain types of mutants, like Jacob, super mutants.
And sometimes this can actually be played on as a trope in media where there's bigotry towards these aliens or mutants or whatever, and that they essentially treat them as another race of people. Because they are people, just not human. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like District 9, for example, did that possibly pretty well.
Yeah.
Because they had these. I mean, they were very insect-like, which is a huge difference than most other more skinly-looking aliens. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, they had big eyes, humanoid form, and they talked about like the othering of them as other people. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happens with like mutants and ghouls in Fallout.
Mm-hmm. And usually the reason that it's okay to kill these is because not only are they othered, but there's also maybe some speciesism or bigotry against them that makes you feel like you can kill them because you're superior to them.
Right, because you're not arguing that they're sentient. You just don't care.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And that's usually just the reason given for killing them.
I mean, look at the super mutants in like a game like Fallout 3, where they are capable of speech. They can talk to you. They will talk as they try to kill you. Mm-hmm. Now, you could use the self-defense argument like you can with any of these, but why do you not feel bad about it? Because they are other. Mm-hmm. You can judge them for their actions that they do bad things, but I always might, like, if you really think about it, you might be like, maybe I should feel a little sad about this because they're definitely intelligent, but you're just kind of told not to because they're the other bad plague that you have to defeat. Mm-hmm. And this is also why, like, I didn't want to do plague as human representation because that's our next category.
Oh, zombies used to be humans that are generally not sentient anymore.
Yeah, so zombies are the plague in human manifestation. Mm-hmm. But what really defines them as really their own category in this whole discussion is that they are former people.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, mutants kind of are, like, that's why mutants are right next to zombies. But zombies, they really straddle the whole life and death thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they really are like corpses.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what defines them, as just living corpses.
Mm-hmm.
If they were still alive, oh yeah, it would be bad to kill them then. But now that they're a zombie, it's okay. We're just re-killing them.
Yeah.
And, you know, cite the zombie video of the beginning of the podcast that we talked about.
Yep. There's lots of zombies. Lots. There's
Nazi zombies from Call of Duty Zombies.
from Left 4 Dead, Dying Light, Dead Rising.
Yeah, zombies are very big in video games, and they've been used a lot to make killable people.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're not technically alive, you're not technically killing them, are you?
Yeah. I guess in other media like The Walking Dead and what other TV shows? Night of the Living Dead, maybe? That movie? Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of zombie movies and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think we're good on the examples.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
with zombies, it's really weird because you might say they're not alive. That's the terminology that's used, but they're walking of their own accord. So apparently our definitions of life and death are not as defined as they should be. If we lived in a world where zombies were real, I would argue that, they didn't die. They are alive. Our definitions of life and death are inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what they say. They say they're dead. It's okay. Don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I would say in a way it's unethical to kill a zombie. But of course, you can always use the self-defense.
Yeah.
They are a manifestation of a plague. So they do give a few reasons why you should kill them.
Mm-hmm.
But I would argue you should still feel bad about it. When you kill that zombie grandmother of 4, like with 4 zombie grandchildren around her, when you shoot her in the face, I might be like, maybe feel sad for the person she used to be.
I mean, fair enough.
I get, she's become a monster, but she wasn't always.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe some people feel that's obvious, but I don't think it is. Like,
they don't really talk about that much.
Well, think about like the glorification of brutality in some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
You kill a zombie and then you just leave it. You walk away.
Mm-hmm.
I get there's a survival element to it, but I'm sure you could find examples of, like, I mean, The Walking Dead probably talked about this at some point.
Oh, where they have people that they knew turn into zombies, and then they explore the emotional turmoil of...
Okay, that wasn't what I was going to say at all, though.
Sorry.
What I was going to say is you kill a zombie, and if you're not in a survival situation, like you got a pretty good base of operations going, and you're killing zombies just because that's what you have to do in the post-apocalypse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we treat their corpses and like bury them or honor them as former people? Like you would think they would do that for any of their own that fell, but if it's a stranger zombie, nope, that's off the table.
Yeah, I get what you mean, and that's actually pretty funny because like they sometimes want to do that in The Walking Dead if they knew the person that turned into a zombie.
Mm-hmm. So, and I get the survival scenario. So what I'm saying is when you take that out of the equation, mm-hmm. why doesn't that happen more? Because mm-hmm. like you would think any civilization that's rebuilding would want to recognize that these used to be people and honor them. Mm-hmm. Just like you would with any corpse, because that's what they apparently are.
Yeah. All right. Can we keep going?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, Nazis.
Yes, so these are our first actual people. Not former people like zombies, but current people. They are humans, and the reason that they are okay to kill, they are killable people, they're okay to shoot, is because they're monsters by choice.
Mm-hmm.
They are people who choose to be monsters. And I don't mean like ideological differences. Nazis are fascists. Fascist is by definition a non-consistent ideology.
Yeah.
So really most fascism just comes down to the authoritarian control of people and domination and power and, genocide of the peoples that they don't like. So when you come across Nazis, particularly because of the world's history of knowing of what Nazis can do since World War II, we've pretty much agreed as a society that it's okay to shoot them. Because if you're buying into that, I don't even need the self-defense excuse.
Yeah.
I don't even need the idea of, oh, you're trying to kill me, I have to defend myself. It doesn't matter who or what you are. Because if you're a Nazi, even if you're being all nice to me and everything, I know you would want to kill me.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk about this because I just thought of this, but like in the Wolfenstein series, they do a great job of showing Nazis as technically they're people, but every single one of them is dangerous.
Yeah, and even if they're an idiot.
Yeah, they do a great job of showing that in Wolfenstein, that everyday Nazis, even regular Nazis, are still dangerous because of the regime that they are a part of.
And the whole Wolfenstein franchise is based on the idea of killing Nazis. And like in the 2014, when they rebooted the series and had like, what if Nazis won World War II? It was received pretty well as a game like where we get to kill Nazis again with a retro futuristic bent on it. But then when in 2017 the sequel came out, it was received very differently. And that's because we live in an age now where America has forgotten what Nazis are. We don't really teach it anymore. And I'm really hoping we get a name for this eventually, but I think we're like currently in like the second rise of fascism or something like that.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So like people often said that like Wolfenstein was a biased game and whatnot. And I think they knew what they were doing. Nazis bad. So people saying, "Oh, this is biased." Like, no, we're going to lean into that. Nazis really bad.
Yeah.
So if you ever want to check out the Wolfenstein games, they're great. There's also this really great analysis on video games, media, the second rise of fascism, and Nazis and Wolfenstein. All of those combined into one by a YouTube channel called Curio. We definitely recommend it.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome. And also, Wolfenstein is pretty much showing the only somewhat justified war America ever fought.
I mean, one thing I think is really cool about the game is how everyone unites against the Nazis. Like, you have African-American freedom fighters. You have, like, former commies, basically. You have Jewish people, of course. And what else? Help me here. Europeans, Polish people.
Yeah.
And you even have former Nazis.
Yeah.
That realized what they were doing was wrong, and they were welcomed back.
Yeah, the ones that escaped.
Prior to doing any hate crimes, presumably.
I guess. I mean...
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next category.
All right. General bad guys. And these are just people that for some reason are against you and usually want you specifically dead. And often, like, they just give a separate reason for it, you know?
Yeah, see, like, zombies, they're killable because they're not people. Nazis, okay, they're people, but they're the worst of us. And then Nazi zombies are both, right?
Yeah.
Now, these guys, general bad guys, they're portrayed as being bad and worth killing, kind of like Nazis. Like, they believe in something abhorrent that justifies their deaths because otherwise they will ruin us in some way. The problem is that these are just kind of bad guys. The reasons for them to die aren't as horrid. Like with Nazis, like they're genocidal fascist maniacs. General bad guys might believe in something a bit more nuanced, something a bit more debatable, or might just be completely underwritten entirely to where you don't really know what they believe in, but you're told it's okay to kill them.
Yeah, basically, this is often where they literally just throw out self-defense and expect you not to question it.
Yeah, there's like no other subtext. It's
Yeah.
just that these are bad guys.
Like raiders from Fallout, and there's some terrorists in Call of Duty.
Oh, I want to talk about the Raiders thing.
Yeah.
Because that's used in Fallout, but it's used in a lot of like post-apocalyptic fiction. I wanted to ask, if you're doing self-defense, you have no choice, right? You can feel bad about it or not, but you will have to kill them if you want to survive to make it to the next day. So if that's a given, what about if you're in situations where it's not self-defense? If you're just passing by a raider group and they don't know you're there, and you have a rocket launcher, you could kill them without any repercussion if you wanted to. Is it ethical to kill them?
I don't know. That's a really tough, because it's like, I mean, I guess you could make the argument that if you don't kill them, then they're going to kill other people, and you would have those deaths on your conscience.
I think that's the argument you're supposed to make. But why am I so certain that they would go and kill other people?
Because I guess the argument is, if they knew that you were there, they would also try to kill you.
Right, but I'm not there and I don't have to be there. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's only considered okay because we have some idea of them in our mind under the term raider, and we know what raider means.
Yeah,
because in real life, it would just be a town we've never seen before. It could be called, Cabbageville. And the people there are dressed in a very odd manner that seems similar to the manner of previous, pillagers and murderers and raiders that we've come across in the past. Do we judge them on appearance alone, that it's okay to kill them because they seem to identify with what we already have in our heads as the idea of a raider?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I feel like you need more information before you even...
That's the thing. If this group is criminally underwritten and you're just telling me it's okay to kill them, I tend to respond, is it though? Is it?
Yeah.
Like, and even if like I approach and they try to kill me, right? And I might have the self-defense approach. What if they were just an independent farming village that everyone that's ever approached them has tried to kill them? And even though you aren't trying to kill them, they naturally assume you are, right?
Yeah.
You might be in the wrong. You can use the self-defense argument, but you're wrong. You were not right to kill them.
Yeah, you should have just left them alone. I get what you mean.
So if you're in a situation where you're just passing them by, I don't think it's ethical to kill them. Even if you think like, oh, well, they obviously look like raiders, and I'm told that raiders are okay to kill. The fact you're making the assumption makes you the monster.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So I'm going to use a mod in Fallout that makes it to where you can disguise yourself as a raider and go through raider territory without having to kill anyone. Okay, thank you, bye.
Yeah, all right. Also, this is like the most problematic category because, like, the raiders you talked about, for example, they're almost always just brown people.
I know, it's
like almost every single time.
I mean, like, look at like shooter games, FPSs, where like Call of Duty or like Battlefield or Uncharted, where you're going against foreign armies of people. And guess which foreign armies? They tend to be brown. You don't ever go against like, oh, we gotta go defeat those Belgians.
Russians.
We gotta defeat the Polish.
To be fair, I think you do fight the Russians at some point.
The Dutch.
Yeah.
The what's another one? The Liechtensteinians. We gotta defeat the Liechtensteinian armies. No. It's always like Vietnam, Cambodia, Venezuela, Nicaragua, even Japan if it's like World War II.
Yeah.
Although they're kind of fascist, whatever. Again, these bad guys can have reasons for killing them. And they can be good reasons. There can be a group that's just fascist. Maybe not Nazis, but they have fascist leanings, like, I don't know, World War II Italians or something, or Japanese, right?
Yeah.
And you might be justified and be like, okay, you know what? I think that reason is good enough.
Yeah.
Right? The problem is in the same category exists ones where the reasons aren't good.
Absolutely.
Because no matter what your reasoning is, you're understanding that those Italian soldiers, those Japanese soldiers, they are human beings. They are real people, right?
Yeah.
Because we are far beyond the monster stage of this. These are humans. We've just been given a reason that they are monsters. Whether that reason is good or not, that's the question.
Yep.
And a lot of the times the reason's not good, and these portrayals are just completely racist. Next category?
Sure. Regular human beings. Normal people that can be reasoned with. And that's like factions, like the entire factions in Fallout, even the groups in Elder Scrolls, certain groups in Lisa, some friendly fighting tournament games like Mortal Kombat and stuff. And I guess you could find examples throughout all of history.
Right, so what I was saying about the reason to kill them, this is where the really good reasons go.
Yeah.
Like, if you're given a really good reason, and when I say really good reason, that's usually going to involve character development and backstory, where these characters aren't underwritten. Like, this is humans versus humans. You know what I mean? You are killing somebody, but you know very well the reason why you're doing it, and that this person should die.
Yeah.
It's like, at the beginning of the podcast, we asked, are there even killable people? Is that a real thing? You might respond, well, what if there was this man that decided to start raping children and he was getting away with it a lot, and he ended up befriending a cop, and the cop knew that he was a rapist but didn't have any evidence on him, so wanted to one day like go and sneak into his house and execute him extrajudicially, right?
Yeah.
I would say that might be this last scenario, humans versus humans.
Yeah,
Because,
I agree with you there.
because you know exactly what's going on. You're not given a flimsy pretense. You're not just told, like, go attack these people. They're they're rapists. That's fine. You know? Oh, man, I shouldn't have said that word. We're going to get demonetized. I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
Don't worry. The podcast revenue, man, we need ads. We need ads. So we can actually make money on this. Anyway, so this is a spectrum. It's not like a good to bad spectrum. I mean, like that example we just gave for human beings, that's extrajudicial execution. That's not exactly what I would say like is the pinnacle of humanity, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes games will punish you for killing people out, like just killing wantonly.
Right.
Like the karma system in Fallout, or like Fable also has like a good or bad thing depending on the people you kill. So if the game punishes you for it, then you like know, oh, I wasn't supposed to kill that person.
Right, but that's irrelevant to the discussion because this is not a morality scale. This is not a morality spectrum.
Yeah.
This is not of okay people and less okay people. Although okay, this is not a scale of good people to bad people. It's a scale of okay people to kill to less okay monsters to kill. This is like a spectrum of monstrosity.
Yeah.
At the most human, you have actual human beings, fleshed out characters, right? Under that, you have general bad guys, which are just humans that have been written to have a pretext for killability, right? Then under that, you have Nazis. Under that, you have zombies. Under that, you have the not human but humans, like aliens or mutants. Under that, you have human-like monsters. Under that, you have mammal-like monsters and, you know, beasts and whatnot. Under that, you have animal-like monsters, which is more like bugs and pests and whatnot. And then you have the abstract monsters. So that's the spectrum. We are coining it the Monstro spectrum. What do you think about that? You got something better, Kier?
Monster spectrum.
Monstro spectrum.
Monstro spectrum.
Human monster? Monster to human.
No. Monster spectrum is nice. I like that.
Killability spectrum. I like that better.
Yeah.
Killability.
Killability.
Yes.
That's funny.
Thank you. We got it. We got it, listeners.
I just really don't like when games just throw cannon fodder at you without giving you good reason. So, like, this killability, like, these enemies, like, just give me a good reason. Like, the human beings, usually they always give you a decent story reason. But others, they just don't. And I don't like that.
All right, well, do you have anything else you want to mention, or are we good?
I think we're good.
All right, well, this has been Game Theorem. I'm Kyle.
I'm Kira.
And check out our Twitter, I guess, or something. Bye.
Bye.